background, virtual or actual. Sixth, please hold off your questions after the end of the presentation of the speakers. You may also opt to use the raise your hands button so that the host can acknowledge you before you ask your question. Or seventh, you may use the chat box to key in your questions in advance.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good afternoon. To formally start our program, may I invite everyone for a moment of silence for our invocation to be led by Mr. Aaron Cafe.
May I invite everyone to put ourselves into the presence of the Lord. Dear Almighty, as we gather here today, we thank you for allowing us to be here together in your name. We beseech you to bless us so we can successfully conclude this meeting's agenda. May you provide us your divine wisdom so we can formulate plans, solve problems, and interact with each other as one team. May we see you in each one of us so that we will value each person's contributions to any undertaking. Grant that our plans would be beneficial to everybody around us, that our actions would be testaments of your love and generosity. We pray that you may bless each person present here today, our families and friends, and all the people in the world. After this meeting, may we contribute in our own little methods to make the world a better place to live in. May all people concerned cooperate and accomplish our goals and the programs created from this meeting. All of this we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Aaron. Once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Salamat ng gahari. Welcome to our Global Biz with Pesa, featuring Malaysia with our theme, Strengthening Southeast Asia Cooperation through Philippine-Malaysia Economic Zone Development and Business Continuity Forum. I am Raison D. Arubinto of the Investment Promotions of Pesa, and I am honored to be your program facilitator for this afternoon. For the information of everybody, as a background, this is Global Business with Pesa. Global Biz is a monthly per-country investors forum of Pesa that seeks to provide platforms for our business community to come together and discuss business and investment opportunities, and of course, promote Pesa Ecozones as ideal locations for different types of strategic and big-ticket industries from around the world. In other words, we are actually inviting you to consider the Philippines as your business partner. This is actually a continuation of the second Philippine Investment Forum for Malaysia held earlier this morning with the DTI Philippine Trade and Investment Center in Kuala Lumpur and the Philippine Embassy there. On behalf of everyone here in Pesa, physically attending here at the auditorium, we are delighted to welcome you all. With this, allow me to welcome and acknowledge the presence of our esteemed guests and delegates, His Excellency Charles C. Jose, Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia, His Excellency Norman bin Muhammad, Malaysian Ambassador to the Philippines, of course, our very own Brigadier General Charito B. Plaza, MNSA PhD, PESA Director General, Mr. Tereso O. Panga, PESA Deputy Director General for Policy and Planning, and Mr. Alim Siddiqui M. Giapal, Group Manager for Promotions and Public Relations of PESA and the head of the Global Biz program. Commercial Attaché, Ms. Katrina Banson, DTI PTIC Kuala Lumpur, Vice Consul Juhaira C. Wahab Manantam, Philippine Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. Counselor, Ms. Noriha Ahmad, Malaysian Embassy in Manila. First Secretary, Ms. Norayu Z, Malaysian Embassy in Manila. Mr. Hans Hao, President, Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Philippines. Mr. Patrick Nicholas David, President and CEO, MTD Philippines and Chairman of Bandar Hebat Builders Incorporated. Mr. Carlos B. Estrella, General Manager, Intec Precision Philippines Incorporated. Partner agencies, Philippine Embassy in Malaysia again, Malaysian Embassy in Manila, DTI Philippine Trade and Investment Center in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Philippines, Management Committee members of Pesa, Deputy Director Generals, Zone Administrators, Deputy Zone Administrators, Zone Managers, and Group Managers. Participants from the Industry Association, thank you very much for your presence. Federation of Economic Zone Service Providers, IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines, Semiconductor and Electronics Industries in the Philippines Foundation, Philippine Economic Zone Association, Confederation of Wearable Exporters of the Philippines, Philippine Association of Multinational Companies, Regional Headquarters, Incorporated, Philippine Chamber of Industrial Estates and Ecozones. Our special guests, Captain Norsal Dimapuro, Deputy Chief, Philippine Navy, Dr. Zulkifli Baharum, CEO, Sihatra Leadership Initiatives, Mr. Fazil Ruan, Executive Director, World Islamic Economic Forum Foundation, Mr. Yusuf Moksana, Jr., Intelligence Division of Bureau of Immigration, Ms. Nadia Tomawis, Property and Procurement Services, Senate of the Philippines, Honorable Said Shahir Muhammad, Senate of Malaysia, Mr. Azhar bin Mahmoud, Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the Philippines, Datu Ifran Baidir Omar, Chairman BE Central Contracts, a company in Malaysia. And to all of you joining virtually and physically here at the Pesa Auditorium. Again, good afternoon. Now to introduce one of our very important special speakers. Let us welcome on the floor Mr. Alim Siddiqui M. Gyapal, the Group Manager of Pesa's Promotions and Public Relations Group. Sir.
Thank you very much, Ryzen. Salam sehatera, salamat datang. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. It is our esteemed honor to introduce the Ambassador of the Philippines to Malaysia. He received his bachelor's degree in economics from the University of the Philippines and his master's degree in Southeast Asian Studies from the National University of Singapore. As a career Foreign Service officer, he served as Consul General at the Philippine Consulate General in Shanghai, China, Minister and Consul General at the Philippine Embassy in Bangkok, Thailand, and Deputy Permanent Representative at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. He also held diplomatic postings at the Philippine embassies in Singapore and in Beijing. In the Department of Foreign Affairs, he has been assigned to several offices, including being the Assistant Secretary for the Office of Public Diplomacy and spokesperson also of the same department. In 2016, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Merit by the late President Benigno Simeon Aquino III for his contribution to the successful hosting by the Philippines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation 2015 in his role as APEC 2015 spokesperson. In 2019, he received another citation, the Gawad Mabini, with the rank of Dakilang Kamagong or Grand Cross from His Excellency President Rodrigo Roa Duterte for distinguished service in the Department of Foreign Affairs. Excellencies, Tuan and Tuan Haji, our honor to introduce to you the Ambassador of the Philippines to Malaysia, His Excellency Ambassador Charles Jose.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Charito Plaza, Director General, Philippine Economic Zones Authority, His Excellency Norman bin Muhammad, Ambassador of Malaysia to the Philippines, to all the Malaysian companies represented here, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am delighted to see many of you again who were also present at this morning's session. Following the very informative and robust interaction during the Investment Forum, it is my honor to welcome you this afternoon to an episode of the Global Biz with PEZA, a monthly global investors forum hosted by the Philippine Economic Zones Authority, or PEZA, to present opportunities for business and investments in its various economic zones, tailored to specific trading partners. Economic zones play an important role in boosting Philippine exports. Benefiting from decades of investment and rising investor appetite for manufacturing projects, economic zones in the Philippines have become an important export promotion tool and investment destination. This month's Global Biz with PESA features Malaysia and will address prospective Malaysian and Filipino investors and business partners to provide information on opportunities in PESA's economic zones that are best suited to them. Both the economies of the Philippines and Malaysia are heavily export-oriented, if not primarily export-driven. This forum is also an excellent opportunity for industry players in both countries to explore synergies and build on new partnerships to mutually enhance the competitiveness of their investments and exports, especially in a post-pandemic economic recovery scenario. We are encouraged by PESA's proactive strategies, such as this present forum, to reach out to foreign and local businesses and promote the Philippines as an investment destination in order to foster employment opportunities around the country and to spur exports. We are confident that with its current policy thrusts, PESA will be able to effectively fulfill its mandate as a one-stop shop facility to assist and encourage foreign and local businesses in establishing export-oriented facilities around the Philippines. Today, Director General Plaza will be discussing how this is done in her presentation on doing business with PESA, investment opportunities for the Malaysian business community. I am pleased to note that for the open forum, our PESA officials will also be joined by panelists from the private sector. We look forward to hearing their experiences on doing business with PESA, particularly how locating in PESA economic zones has also helped their businesses grow. This afternoon session is a most appropriate complement to the investment forum held this morning. However, we acknowledge that today's back-to-back event is a mere first step, though all important, as both governments and businesses continue to reflect on the current state of our respective economies and formulate strategies for institutions and businesses to recover better and sooner. On the part of the Embassy, we will continue to support the Department of Trade and Industry through the Philippine Trade and Investment Center in Kuala Lumpur and the PESA in promoting the Philippines as a unique business and investment destination. We will also continue to engage with the business and industry sectors in Malaysia to facilitate the expansion of our bilateral trade and investment relations. The Philippine Embassy in Malaysia is proud to support this creative and strategic initiative spearheaded by PESA. I wish to thank PESA under the able leadership of its head, Director General Charito Plaza, for the opportunity to be part of this event. Once again, welcome, and I wish everyone a productive afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Ambassador Charles Jose, Ambassador of the Philippines to Malaysia. Allow me to present to you our next honored speaker at this Global Biz of Pesa, the Ambassador of Malaysia to the Philippines. The Ambassador of Malaysia to the Philippines is an alumnus of the Bishop's University in Canada with honors. He was appointed as an administrative and diplomatic officer in 1992. To date, he has been serving the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia for 29 years in various capacities. Throughout his diplomatic career, his overseas assignments included the Embassy of Malaysia in Argentina in 1995, the Embassy of Malaysia in Thailand in 2001, the Consulate General of Malaysia in Los Angeles in 2008. In 2014, His Excellency began his ambassadorial tour as the Ambassador of Malaysia to Turkmenistan. At the headquarters in Putrajaya, His Excellency used to serve as the Deputy Director General for the Asean Malaysia National Secretariat responsible for the sociocultural community. In 2016, he was promoted as the Director for School of Politics, Security, and Economic Diplomacy at the Institute of Diplomacy and Foreign Relations until 2018. During his stint in the said office, he supervised the training need analysis and brain gain program for economic diplomacy. Both programs have benefited not only the officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also officials from various ministries and agencies in Malaysia. From 2018 until early 2019, His Excellency concurrently held the positions of Governor of Asia-Europe Foundation and Malaysian Commissioner for Group D8 while leading the Organization of Islamic Council and a Regional Cooperation Division of the Ministry. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my honor to present to you the Ambassador of Malaysia to the Philippines, His Excellency Ambassador Norman Muhammad.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brigadier General Charito B. Plaza, Director General of PEZA, His Excellency Charles E. Jose, the Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia, Mr. Tereso Opanga, Deputy Director General Policy and Planning PEZA, Attorney Norma B. Tanak, Deputy Director General Operation of PEZA, Mr. Alim Siddiqui M. Gwipal, PEZA Group Manager and Promotion and Public Relations Group, Ms. Katrina Banzon, Commercial Attaché, Philippine Trade and Investment Center, PTIC, Kuala Lumpur, and Mr. Hans Hao Han Hui, President of Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MCCI, of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I would like to thank the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, PEZA, for their cooperation in co-organizing the Global Biz with PEZA, with the Embassy of Malaysia. A special thanks to the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MCCI, and the Philippine Trade and Investment Center, PTIC, for their collaboration in this event. A warm welcome to the participating industry players, partners, and friends of PEZA and MCCI. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently braving an unprecedented time. COVID-19 has crippled both the world economy and global businesses. In 2020, the global GDP suffered its sharpest drop since the end of Second World War. Millions were made unemployed or furloughed, and government injected trillions of dollars into their economies to prevent greater damage. Traditionally, businesses thrive on stability. When dealing with pandemic, stability becomes a relative concept. Therefore, to survive, we need to adapt. If there is one thing that the pandemic has taught us, it is the businesses that learn to pivot effectively and flexibly will likely emerge from the pandemic stronger than ever. That is the main idea behind this virtual program. It is a platform for prospective investors and business partners, both from Malaysia and the Philippines, to present and discuss investment opportunities in the different types of ecozones made available by PEZA. Ladies and gentlemen, it is more important now than ever that we keep expanding our horizon and build new partnerships to enhance the competitiveness of both countries' investment and exports. I am confident that PEZA could be the starting point for Malaysian businesses to expand their operation in the Philippines. PEZA has been able to sustain investors' confidence since its establishment in 1995. Investors from the United States, Japan, and China chose PEZA for its ease of doing business, efficiency, and effectiveness, which is also recognized by the international institutions such as the International Finance Corporation, IFC. In 2020, PEZA managed to bring about a total of 95.03 billion peso, or approximately around 1.8 billion USD worth of foreign and local investment into the Philippines. In addition, PEZA contributed up to 64% of the Philippines' exports of commodities and goods and 80% of export services to market all over the world. Having said that, and as the co-organizer of this event, it is my honor to connect you with PEZA, MCCI, and PTIC, who could be the referral points for the potential business collaboration and cooperation in the Philippines. I wish you a successful and productive engagement, and hopefully we could chart positive growth and expansion from this event. I wish to also congratulate and thank the participants for your interest in this event, and I'm optimistic that it would not be the last one to be organized. Should the condition improves, I look forward to see this forum being held physically, whether in Malaysia or in the Philippines. All the best. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Brigadier General Charito B. Plaza, Director General of PEZA.
Terima kasih, His Excellency Norman bin Muhammad, for that insightful remarks. We now come to the meat of the discussion. Allow me to introduce the next speaker briefly. She actually does not need further introduction, but I'd like to point out that one of her numerous accomplishments as a dedicated public servant with experiences in the Philippine Congress, military, and in the local government units. Most notably, she co-authored Republic Act 7916, or the Special Economic Zone Act of 1995, creating the Philippine Economic Zone Authority. As the Director General of PESA, she initiated major policy reforms, particularly in revolutionizing PESA to meet the dynamic demands of the business environment and to support the President Duterte's economic agenda, especially in this time of pandemic. Recently, she was featured at the CEO magazine for its executive feature, actually, cited as world-class Filipino brand of excellence. Without further ado, we give you Director General, Brigadier General Charito B. Plaza, MNSA, PhD. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rayson, for the introduction. My respects and greetings to our ambassador, the Philippine ambassador to Malaysia, His Excellency Charles Jose, His Excellency Norman bin Muhammad, the Malaysian ambassador to the Philippines, PTIC Kuala Lumpur Commercial Attaché, Rosa Katrina Banzon, the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Philippines, President Mr. Hans Hao Han Wei, the representatives from the PESA registered Malaysian enterprises, the Engtech Procession Philippines Inc. General Manager, Mr. Carlos Estrella, the MTD Philippines, President Patrick Nicolas P. David, to our distinguished guests, And participants, my PEZA family, we have the three dynamic Deputy Director Generals, Theo Panga, JP Ushinko, Nori Tanyag, and the various agency and industry associations, partners of PEZA, ladies and gentlemen. A pleasant Thursday afternoon to you all. Assalamualaikum. Before I start, I wish to thank Ambassador Jose and Ambassador Muhammad and their teams, as well as the DTI, PTIC, and the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Philippines for collaborating with PEZA in hosting today's Global Biz Forum, specifically for the existing and prospective Malaysian investors. Your help is very vital in facilitating our trade and investment agenda for both the Philippines and Malaysia. As we continue in our pursuit of attracting and bringing in investments to the country, especially during this time, we continue to perform our sworn mandate showcasing the economic opportunities in the Philippines despite the pandemic. And this is exactly what PEZA is doing. To brief our investors of the PEZA's profile, PEZA is now 26 years, which has established itself as the country's leading export-oriented investment promotion agency, mandated to promote investments, create employment, and generate exports by registering, managing, and facilitating the business operations of investors in both the horizontal and vertical PEZA economic zones. To date, PEZA manages 415 economic zones nationwide of different types, so we can attract different types of industries of the world. We are now hosting, or these economic zones are now hosting 4,665 locator companies that directly employ 1.6 million workers. NEDA says that for every one direct job, PEZA has created 6 indirect jobs. Those are the workers employed by our suppliers, our truckers, our brokers, our forwarders, the canteen concessionaires, security agencies, and others doing business in our economic zones. So it is estimated that a total of 9.2 million Filipinos are affected with our economic zones and export companies located in our economic zones. PEZA has generated 32.057 billion pesos of investments and exports amounting to 30.177 billion US dollars for the first half of 2021. So this means that despite the threats and the challenges of the pandemic, PEZA never played hostage. But instead, we continue to reach out to the world investors. Humanity has to survive. Businesses and industries has to survive. Hence, this global biz with the Malaysian investors today that we are promoting. PEZA also contributes to 64% of the Philippine exports of commodities and goods, 80% export services to markets all over the world, and about 15 to 18% of Philippines' GDP in 2020. PEZA is known for its brand of service. It is known for its regulatory transparency, no red tape policy, a one-stop shop, and a non-stop shop services for investors. With this, the IFC World Bank continuously recognized PEZA for its best practices among for its best practices among the economic zones nationwide, continuously providing and enhancing the ease of doing business in the country. Likewise, and recently, the U.S. Department of State noted in its official 2020 investment climate statements that the business environment in the Philippines, though slow and opaque, is notably better within the special economic zones, particularly those available for export businesses operated by PEZA. Among those registered companies, a total of 56 Malaysian enterprises are registered and located in PEZA's economic zones, are engaging in warehousing and storage, manufacturing of fabricated metal products, except machinery and equipment, real estate activities, radio, television, and communication equipment and apparatus, recycling, and call centers. Since 1995, when PESA was created, until June 2021, these companies generate a cumulative amount of 17.571 billion pesos of investments. Meanwhile, these companies employ 10,998 workers and contribute 52.599 million US dollars of exports as of August 2021. It is unfortunate that we've been slapped with the harsh effects of the COVID pandemic and threatening to snatch the decade-long efforts of the country's vibrant and thriving economy growth. Nevertheless, the Philippines continues to attract foreign direct investments to the country. What are the benefits of investing in the Philippines? The Philippines is one of the few countries of the world which is blessed with great abundance, both in natural resources and human resources. Our human resources, we produce 1 million plus a year, reaching the working age of 18, and half of them are college or university graduates. These are just some of the many factors why local and foreign enterprises are enthusiastic in working with Filipinos and in doing business in the Philippines. The Philippines, likewise, is strategically located in the Southeast Asia, and there are still vast and millions of hectares idle lands around the country, perfect for different types of economic activities, partnered with our two types of weather and a very fertile soil, which means we can grow crops the whole year round and with different and various types of crops. The Philippines also takes pride in our young Filipino workforce who are proficient in English, in the English language, and dependable, friendly, hospitable, and hardworking character traits. There are also two non-negotiable factors that we remind our investors. First factor is to respect the rights of our workers and investors, and the compliance to both labor and environmental laws are guaranteed. Moreover, the Philippines is the only country granted by the European Union Parliament the GSP Plus status among the Asean countries, and we are expecting the renewal of the same GSP Plus status from the USA, which means that all those goods produced and manufactured in the Philippines, destined for Europe and the USA, will enjoy zero tariff. Furthermore, the Philippines is also waiting for the implementation of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or the RCEP, which is seen to enhance our businesses' participation in the global value chain, given that this agreement will promote partnership between the ASEAN nations, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea. What then are the Pesa's incentives that are being sought for by our existing investors? Why they are here in the Philippines? PEZA provides incentives for investors by virtue of the Special Economic Zone Act of 1995, or RA 7916, and the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises, or the recently passed CREATE Act, RA 11534. Export enterprises may be granted an income tax holiday of 4 to 7 years depending on the location and industry priorities. After the ITH, export enterprises can avail a 5% special corporate income tax or an enhanced deductions for 10 years. Other incentives PESA provide include the tax and duty-free importation of capital equipment, raw materials, spare parts, or accessories. VAT exemption on importation and VAT zero rating on local purchases for goods and services directly or exclusively used in the registered project or activities. Domestic sales allowance of up to 30% of the total sales is an incentive we grant the 100% foreign-owned companies. That includes the exemption from the payment of local government taxes and fees for the duration of the period of availment of the 5% SCIT incentive. The employment of foreign nationals, special non-immigrant visa for foreign investors and their immediate family is now to be given 2 years with a 2-year duration. The special non-immigrant visa is one incentive that we provide our foreign investors. And the last but not the least, we allow the long-term land lease of both private and public lands of the country of up to 75 years. We allow the 60-40 rule of investors once they opt to have a local partner. So 60% must be Filipino partners, 40% foreign company partners. And if this is a joint corporation or business, we allow the joint partnership to acquire lands to become their permanent economic zone location for their industries. Now that the CREATE law is being implemented, we believe that this can now help us aggressively to pursue the marketing and promotion of our economic zones to global investors. We are also continuously being involved in the CREATE IRR to assure that the law will create stability in the taxation regime and not further confusion. How did we behave in PESA during this pandemic? We have successfully did the balancing act of protecting the health and the jobs of our 1.6 million workers of the Ecozones and industries, and 90 to 98% of our companies continues to operate, hence promoting the economy and making it afloat, and investors continuously are interested to come to the Philippines in our economic zones. So amidst this pandemic, we were able to implement balancing acts to protect the safety and welfare of our investors, our workers, and help revive our economy. These acts include the allowance of 90% of the total annual revenue derived from the work from home arrangement, which used to be 30%. The inclusion of COVID-related expenses as deductibles for enterprises availing of the 5% GIE incentives, and the inclusion of the IT BPO companies, the economic frontline workers, and all the registered companies, the Ecozone operators of Pesa, to be among the subgroup of the A4 vaccination priority list. So Pesa saw to it that we need not, the investors or the locator companies need not spend for the COVID vaccine for their workers, because we counted them to be among those given free COVID vaccine among the targeted as herd immunity percentage of 70% herd immunity target of the government. With this, the Presidential Communication Operations Office, PCO, has given PESA a special citation for exemplifying an untiring dedication and commitment to the FOI program during the COVID-19 pandemic during the 2020 FOI Awards. But more than these praises and accolades, PEZA remains true to its sworn duty to the country to create a positive business climate in the Philippines and contribute in the creation of a more inclusive economic growth. PEZA is now in its journey to attain the transformation roadmap goals and objectives. So with this transformation roadmap, we hope to ceaselessly promote and enhance the competitiveness of the Philippine market and contribute to the global supply chain. The roadmap heeds to the call of the national government by virtue of the Administrative Order 18 to accelerate rural progress through the creation of more and different types of economic zones for various industries, especially in the countryside. We believe that ecozones will be the economic drivers to recovery and growth in every region, which will help create jobs for the locals and complete the supply needs in the area. When people have jobs, consumption increases and local production booms. This will in turn boost socio-economic progress, create multiplier effects for local government units hosting ecozones in our regions. According to the land potential, we are introducing new types of economic zones such as the halal hubs and production zones. We also have the 7,700 or 611 island cities. These are the smaller islands of the country where we hope to find investors who will put up the capital cities of the world. We also are now processing the defense industrial complexes from the military reservation areas of the armed forces of the Philippines. We want to grow more or create more agroforestry ecozones so we can restore back the wood industry. We also have aquamarine ecozones. Being an archipelago, the country has a lot of potential aquamarine ecozones and fishing grounds. And recently, our state universities, colleges, and even private universities are now applying to PEZA to become a knowledge, innovation, science, and technology parks, or the KIST, which means that our universities and colleges can now invite a foreign school partner to bring their technology, their knowledge, their skills training, their degree programs to the Philippines, making the Philippines as an education hub of Asia. This is in addition to our existing enterprises that are into manufacturing, processing, refinery, assembly, IT/BPO, agro-industrial, tourism, and medical tourism, among others. One of the ecozones we aim to develop is the halal hubs and production zone, where our Malaysian investors can come in, being a nearest neighbor here in Asia. And we have identified 18 locations in Mindanao, including Bukidnon, Agusan del Sur, and Agusan del Norte, Davao City, Sulu, Sultan Kudarat, Surigao del Sur, Misamis Occidental, Lanao del Sur, Lanao del Norte, Davao del Norte, North Cotabato, Zamboanga del Sur and del Norte, Zamboanga Sibugay, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi, and Maguindanao. These are areas rich in agriculture, aquaculture, agroforestry, and a refinery economic zone, where we hope to invite oil companies to bring in and stock their oil and refine their oil in this proposed refinery economic zone. The Philippines, with its particular laws on the halal industry, or Republic Act 10817, otherwise known as the Philippine Halal Export Development and Promotion Act of 2016, and on Islamic Banking and Finance, Republic Act 11439, the country is poised to becoming a significant player in the global halal industry. Pesa sees this as an opportunity to develop special economic zones for halal food production in Mindanao, which could boast its bid for a share of the world halal market, estimated of more than $3 trillion. This will also benefit the local market in assessing halal certified products with its more than 10 million population all over the country. At the BIMP-IAGA level, PEZA is one of the proponents, along with DTI, with the Mindanao Development Authority, Southern Philippines Development Authority, and the BARM regional government, in exploring the possibility for the creation of a BIMP-IAGA cluster working group on ecozones development, primarily because special economic zones were proven in many countries to be catalyst for socio-economic development, to alleviate poverty, generate employment, and improve the economy. In closing, through these endeavors, PEZA continue to make sure that the attractiveness of the Philippines to our investors, and in so doing, make the Philippines a self-reliant, self-sustaining, and a resource-generating investment haven in Asia. And we further aim that the Philippines will become a production, manufacturing, and an export-oriented economy. We believe that our strong partnerships, not just for this forum, but for other ventures, will be vital in our plans for the recovery of the country and in furthering our economic relations with Malaysia. So hand in hand, let us continue to promote PEZA's battle cry when we say, Galing Pinas, Galing Pinas, which means that everything made in the Philippines is best, and the Philippines is best to invest in. Galing Pinas, Galing Pinas. Never, or hand in hand, we hope to cooperate and strengthen our partnership with our Malaysian investors. Please feel welcome to the Philippine Economic Zone Authorities economic zones nationwide, and be our active partner in growing not just the economy of the country, but of the whole region. Terema Kase. Thank you and mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Ma'am DG Plaza. Indeed, this pandemic should not stop us from performing our mandates to promote investment, generate exports, and create employment for our countrymen. On that note, I am sure you have some questions and clarifications. We shall begin the open forum. But first, let us welcome our panel of experts. First, we have Brigadier General Charito B. Plaza. We also have Mr. Tereso Opanga, Pesa Deputy Director General for Policy and Planning, including Management Information System and Corporate Planning, Ecozone Development, Regulation and Processing, Ecozone Assistance, Policy Studies and Planning, and Environmental Safety. We are delighted also to have with us this afternoon Commercial Attaché Ms. Rosa Katrina Banson, Head of PTIC Malaysia, covering as well Singapore. We have also Mr. Alim Siddiqui Imgiapal, former Assistant Cabinet Secretary for International Affairs of the BARM, former Director of Economic Bureau of the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, and currently the Group Manager of Promotions and Public Relations Group of Pesa. From our private sectors, we have Mr. Hans Hao, President of Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Philippines, a passionate business professional, established his own company called WU or Wu Library in the Philippines. This is an import and distribute house furnishing product. He manages a team consist of different nationality and operate in several regions. He is honorary serving as the President of Malaysia Chamber of Commerce and Industries in the Philippines. We also have Mr. Patrick Nicholas David, President and CEO, MTD Philippines, and concurrent Chairman of the Bandar Hebat Builders, Inc. MTD, which also stands for Meaning of True Development, is the leading Asian infrastructure conglomerate operating in the global market that is based in Malaysia, with branches or offices actively present in 13 countries, notably in Saudi, UAE, USA, UK, Australia, Asian countries such as the Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, China. This company has a long-established track record in civil engineering, in construction, manufacturing, infrastructure, concessions, energy, port operations, real estate, and property development, and operations and maintenance. Lastly, but not the least, we have Mr. Carlos B. Estrella, General Manager of Intake Precision Philippines Incorporated. This is located in Laguna, Calmal Ray Industrial Park 1, Special Economic Zone. Intake Precision Philippines Incorporated has been registered under Pesa since August 17, 1999. Intake Group has been in the manufacturing and technology for more than 4 decades as a world-class global supplier of industrial products, primarily on climate control parts, laser equipment, and automotive components. So we have them. But here are our mechanics. Number one, please send us your questions using our chat box. As also mentioned in our chat box, I have indicated it there. If you want to air your questions live, please raise your hand later on and we will recognize you one by one. Our panelists from private sectors, Mr. Hans, Mr. Nico, and Mr. Carlos, will have short remarks about their company, experiences, and business interests or priorities. And after that, we will answer first the questions that you have sent to us in advance during your registration. And then we will have a free-flowing discussion to be facilitated later on by GM Alim. And after all the questions have been answered, at the end of the Q&A, our panel of experts from the government sector will have their final remarks. So DG Plaza, DG Teo, GM Alim, and CA Cat will have the final word at the end of our open forum. So I now give the floor to GM Alim for the discussion. But before that pala, we will call first Mr. Hans Hao of the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines. Mr. Hao, you have the floor.
A warm and safe afternoon to everyone. I represent the Malaysian Chamber in Philippines. Today's events marks a significant role for us in the business community. My heartfelt appreciations to all who make this event, our ever dynamic friends and partners from PEZA, PTIC in Kuala Lumpur, Philippines Embassy in Malaysia, and also Malaysian Embassy in Philippines, and many related party, government agency, and speaker. Your tireless efforts is greatly manifested in today global business forums with PEZA, and in navigating through this new normal pandemic situations. With all of you guys' support to the MCCI paneling partners, making the business more viable in Philippines. We have heard a lot of Malaysian business people discuss the potential investment opportunity in Philippines. And today, the PEZA present the investment opportunity in a different type of Ecozone. I believe with joining in together as part of the chamber, we can capitalize and further expand the business horizontally, both the Philippines and Malaysian market. Philippines have a young and dynamic populations which are more than 105 million of people, and geographically we are near in terms of distance, especially our Sabah state is very near to the south part of it. And two nations have a lot of similarity in terms of culture, language. Is indeed a potential market to take on in the long run. From NCCI perspective, with continued support from the government agency like PEZA, who work closely hand on hand, we are seeing numerous opportunities to further open to our members. With our mission and vision focused on bridging business between two nations, we envision a holistic approach for business growth and development. Without a doubt, we can allow a floodgate of opportunity for industry players from both the country to venture upon and build new partnership in the Philippines. Having this in mind, we can embrace the enhancement of competitiveness for both countries, investment, export, and especially amidst to the difficult time in this pandemic. And as a business chamber, however, shall be our edge over other business chamber as we continue new prospects for development and constantly welcome innovations to our members and incoming members. MCCI will continue to grow into a blossoming association. We can assure our members that without a doubt, we can be by far one of the leading business chamber we have with our partners like PEZA in the Philippines, which is with complementing us with the right tools, policy, networking for business grow and connect. On a personal note that I have been in the Philippines for the past 5 years, with the supporting of our panelings, government agency like PEZA, it have furthered my connection and link to many business network and friendship. This network and link that the chamber have will definitely bridge you to endless possibility in the business perspective. Seeing in these collaborations with our Philippine paneling, I am deeply grateful that I'm part of the MCCI and PEZA. We may be in a challenging time, but in behalf of our MCCI, we would like to assure our members that we remain optimistic and sensitive, charting the relevant program such as today's event to map up relevant areas which is possible expansions and to pursue business growth and development. I now would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all our partners who have made things possible to come out with such timely and relevant program to help assure us and our fellow businessmen that we can and will surely be able to overcome this pandemic with more cooperations. May this event be an experience that we can connect each other with without not necessarily flying back or over here to meet physically for a meeting discussion. It can be done through a new way of connecting online that we can share the information through online. I hope the new way will bring us to success and every member will continue to seek for new and innovative way to overcome the pandemic year challenge. Congratulations to everyone. Let's enjoy once more the best that this world have to offer. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you. Yun. Thank you very much, Mr. Howe. We proceed with Mr. Nicholas David.
Thank you. Your Excellencies and everyone, good afternoon. I am Patrick Nicholas David, President and CEO of MPD Philippines Inc., Chairman of Bandar Hebat Builders Inc., or BHBI for short. I'm pleased to share with you the perks granted by Philippine Economic Zone, or PEZA, to BHBI. BHBI and MPD are fully owned by a Malaysian company, MPD Capital. MPD entered into a joint venture with the Philippine government-owned and controlled corporation, Basis Conversion Development Authority, or BCDA, for the development of the National Government Administrative Center, or NGAC, which was inspired by Putrajaya in Malaysia, and the construction of the sports facility used during the 30th SEA Games, or the SEA Games in 2019. The project entails a construction and development of a mini-city in under 18 months. The project is located in Clark Special Economic Zone at the new Clark City. BHBI applied and registered with PEZA. The fiscal incentives granted by PEZA includes the following: a 4-year income tax holiday, tax and duty-free importation for raw materials, machineries, equipments, tools, and goods directly used and registered for operations of BHBI at the new Clark City. Exemptions from wharfage duties and import tax and import fees. Zero value-added tax on local purchases. Exemption from payments of any and all local government imposed fees, taxes, and licenses except real estate tax. And in lieu of regular corporate income taxes of around 25%, after the 4 years income tax holiday, a fixed 5% gross income tax is to be paid. Moreover, PEZA registered economic enterprises are also entitled to non-fiscal incentives, including permanent resident status within the Ecozone for foreign investors with an initial investment of $150,000, employment of foreign nationals, simplified import and export procedures. MPD started to venture in the Philippines since 15 years ago. To date, MPD has invested about 50 billion pesos, or about 4 billion ringgit, equivalent to about $1 billion. For the coming 6 years, MPD has programmed to invest another 12 billion pesos, or about $1 billion ringgit. We sincerely thank and salute PEZA team, headed by Director General Brigadier General Charito B. Plaza, for the incentives of our company are currently enjoying and in our investment in the Philippines. Thank you very much. Stay safe and good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nico. We proceed with Mr. Carlos. Go ahead, Mr. Carlos.
Good afternoon, His Excellency, industry players, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be invited on this Global Biz with Pesa. Let me share to you some experiences in Pesa. We are Engtech Precision Philippines. Our mother company is located in Penang, Malaysia. Engtech Precision Philippines is doing precision machining of metal parts, data storage components such as SSD and HDD. We are also doing compressor parts on climate control, semiconductor parts, aerospace components, laser photonics, and other medical components. We'll share to you our experiences in Pesa. So we established our plants in the Philippines in 1999. 2 years after we established our company, we started our commercial operations through the help of Pesa. We also have attractive incentives from Pesa that grows our export to 70%. Our expectation of approval for new projects was timely from the start of the commercial operation. We also enjoy innovative innovations from Pesa, from manual to electronic import permits to automated export declaration system. Pesa has personnel with accommodating, promptly replies on emails, open to questions, and keeps company updated on new rules and regulations. Here, thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carlos. We now give the floor to GM Alim for your specific questions you have sent to us in advance.
Thank you very much, Ryson. And also we would like to thank the delegation, both from the Malaysia and the Philippines, for joining us today at the Global Biz with Pesa, Malaysia. As mentioned by Ryson earlier, we received a couple of questions during the registration, and we would like to handfully ask them first to our panelists, and then later we could acknowledge your question online. You may type it at the chat box, or we can also call your name via the Zoom account. I'm being facilitated by the Corporate Communications Division of Pesa. The first question, I think this is for our Pesa officials. These are questions generated during the registration. I may ask the questions that can be answered directly or at the same time by our panelists. Are there any plan for Pesa to simplify the application of working visa for the foreign investors? Second is, this is also Pesa related, so I could just read them all. If a product is made in Pesa, would we be able to get Form E or Form D to export to Asean and China with ease? And third one, can we have a brief introduction of the respective pros and cons of Pesa registration and BOI registration for manufacturing sector? I think this is a comparative advantage between Pesa and BOI. And any of our panelists, the chamber could also answer this. What is the political outlook for Philippines for the years ahead, and how will Philippines incentivize foreign direct investment compared to other ASEAN region? Ma'am DG Plaza or TDG Teo?
Yeah, thank you, Alem, thank you for the questions. Under the CREATE law, under the CREATE law, there will be two separate incentives regime for the export companies and the domestic enterprises. So the incentives for the export companies are better, no? Are better than the domestic enterprises, and our existing export companies registered with Pesa and other IPAs is given the sunset period of 10 years, meaning while they are now under the 5% GIE or gross income earning, they are given 10 years more under this regime. And they will transition to the corporate income tax after the 10-year sunset period. All other incentives that PESA gave our investors earlier are still there. No? We continue with the tax and duty-free importation. We continue with the zero VAT for local purchases to include your power and utilities bills. We also will be issuing the PESA visa that is good for 2 years, no, to our foreign investors, their immediate family members, and foreign workers, where we also allow the employment of not less than or not more than 5% of the total workforce of a company. Right now, in this pandemic, we allow our expats, our foreign investors, including their immediate family members, and of course the foreign workers, to be exempted from the travel ban. Recently, what used to be 14 days quarantine in the hotel is now reduced to 10, and seemingly it will become 5 days only. No? As long as the foreign investors, their immediate family members, those who are working in the Philippines as locator companies, are fully vaccinated. No? So there are now new rules and guidelines that will shorten the quarantine requirements. So we will be disseminating these new guidelines from the IATF because we hope to really put the economic activities to normal. No? And it's not just limited to the existing investors, but we will also gladly welcome new investors who would travel to the Philippines, so that you can already check the potential companies or the potential ecozones for the location of your companies. And even we will even assist you in looking for the appropriate economic zone location, which we are now creating all over the country and of different types. We will also assist you to have a B2B meeting with a potential local partner. No? MTD perhaps can explore also the possibility of building the logistics and transportation hubs that we in PESA is proposing to be created in every region of the country. We are addressing under our transformation roadmap the efficiency factors, no? Because I mentioned in my speech, in my presentation, that the Philippines is blessed with rich human and natural resources, very fertile soil, 2 types of weather, meaning we can plant the whole year round. What we lack now is, or are, the efficiency factors, which includes the supply chain. So our experience in provinces and cities hosting economic zones, once more export companies are coming in to invest in our economic zones, to be located in our economic zones, these LGU hosts or local government hosts are the recipients of a higher income. Social progress has become possible, meaning because we provided jobs and livelihood to our people. So the small and medium enterprises, even the farmers, and every Filipino who wants to be the supplier of the supplies and raw materials needed by our investors, no, they have fully grown and developed. So this is one very important efficiency factor that PESA is addressing. Once we have different types of economic zones, we hope to develop the millions of hectares idle lands and motivate, inspire our farmers, the small and medium enterprises, and every Filipino who wants to become supplier to our export companies. We also hope to build more public works and IT infrastructure. The Philippines, the Filipinos in particular, are the most sought after because other than we have a young population of workers, our workers can also speak English. The pronunciation is understood by everybody in the world. That's why the Philippines is now counted as the biggest call center, or the IT the voice center of the world. No, so we want to invite or attract more IT BPOs and even KPOs to the country. We are also an agricultural economy, so we are now aiming to develop the agro-industrial economic zones, the agroforestry economic zones, where we have 15 million hectares available. We also have mining land, so we are inviting mineral processing industries, no? And we want to address and continue to do the ease of doing business and address the lowering of the cost of doing business in the Philippines. So all these efficiency factors are being addressed by PEZA. And recently we had a partnership with the foreign and local banks led by the Central Bank of the Philippines. So soon, the banks will be opening credit facilities for construction companies like MTD to bring in or to construct more logistics and transportation hubs in every region of the country. And with these credit facilities, our banks will be providing credit facilities for everybody doing business in our economic zones. So these are the things that we are now promoting through this Global Biz with PESA. So in the next round of our Global Biz, we will already feature all the economic zones in the Philippines. So our locator industries can readily choose where to locate. So may I ask my deputy, Teo Panga, to add to the answers of the question asked.
Yes, thank you very much, Ma'am DG. If I may respond to the specific questions raised by our participants. Number one is there any plan by PEZA to simplify the application of working visa for the foreign investor? This is very timely because through the initiative of DG Plaza, we are actually scheduled to sign our memorandum of agreement with the Bureau of Immigration this month, with the objective of simplifying and reducing the steps, the procedures for acquiring a PEZA visa. So this time it's going to be a PEZA visa. This will now remove the Department of Justice from the process flow, and surely this will speed up a lot the processing and issuance of 47A2 visas, which will be valid for 2 years. So under the ARTA, or the Ease of Doing Business law, we're looking at 3 to 7 days and maximum of 21 days for complex applications for our issuance of PEZA visas. Number two, if a product is made in PEZA, would we be able to get Form E? This is for Philippine-made goods for export to China, or Form D for export to ASEAN. So you will note that most of the export trade in the Philippines and even within ASEAN is through intra-ASEAN trade. About 23% export and import is within the ASEAN economies trading with each other. So that being said, since 1995, we've been hosting many big locators that are doing intra-ASEAN trade as well. And we've never encountered with our BOCs issuance of certificate of origin. And so for both forms, as long as they meet the minimum local content under the regional value content requirement, which is minimum 40%, that should not be a problem, and everything can be done online. On what are the pros and cons of PESA registration and BOI registration for manufacturing sector? Well, first of all, whether it's under PESA or BOI, we welcome investments into the Philippines. What is good about it is under the CREATE regime, both PESA and BOI offer the same set of incentives for both export and domestic market-oriented. But I would say that the selling point, the competitive edge of the Philippines, especially through PESA and across all free ports worldwide, based on the commendation of World Bank, is our ease of doing business because of our one-stop shop. So through this provision, the companies, our Malaysian investors, will only have to deal with PESA. They don't have to deal with the local government units. So everything will be a lot easier. There's ease of doing business and reduced cost of doing business. And I think also the edge is the separate customs territory vested in the ecozones, because these are treated like foreign territories, and therefore, in keeping with all the best practices of free ports worldwide, all the goods entered in the PESA zones will remain to be tax and duty free. If you are to import it via BOI, you might be exposed to some value-added tax. Now, on what's the political outlook for the Philippines for the years ahead, I'll leave it to DG Plaza to answer that. But on the other question on how will Philippines incentivize FDI compared to other ASEAN regions, you must have noticed that ASEAN economies are now resorting to race to the bottom, where they try to outdo each other by offering the best incentives that they can offer to foreign investors. In PESA, we say that we don't have to resort to that. We can be complementary with each other in terms of FDI attraction. But under the CREATE, following the lead of Vietnam, which offered 30 years of income tax holiday period to Samsung. So under the CREATE, the President is now authorized to likewise issue a longer income tax holiday period, which is actually for 40 years. But this will be limited to strategic and big ticket projects. I think that's about it. Maybe, ma'am, you may want to answer on the political outlook for the Philippines, being a former 3-term representative and congresswoman. Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Teo. May I just assure our Malaysian investors, existing and new investors, that PEZA, including our chambers, the Malaysian Chamber, our joint foreign chambers, all the foreign chambers, and our industry associations like CEFI, led by Dr. Dan La Chica, the IBPOP, the manufacturing and garments industry sector, all the sectors of our locator industries investing in PEZA. No? We have actually grown up, and more blessed with extraordinary courage to really speak up, and the experiences we have had in the deliberation of the CREATE law really opened the doors to not just to PESA but to our investors, that we should not only be conscious or fear some of the laws, proposed laws that will be passed by a country. by the country host, no, of our global investors, we should participate and be courageous enough to help in crafting better laws, no, that will enhance the capability of the country host, no, to the investors of the world, no. So we have grown. We are now becoming more a fighter for a good cause to continuously make the Philippines a better investment location for our global investors. As long as we are sincere in our task, in our role, without vested interest, any leader of an agency and any leader of the government can make all the efforts, no, to really stand up and contribute in the betterment of the economy and the people in general, no? So we have grown after the experiences of deliberating CREATE. So we're looking forward that whatever will happen in the coming election, the next administration will be very, very supportive, because we are not the only game in town, meaning the Economic Zones program is not a monopoly of the Philippines. We are in fact competing with the other ASEAN neighbors, no? Competing to build economic zones, competing to attract investors of the world, no, through our tax incentives and subsidies. But the best incentive that we can promise to our locators and prospective investors is to provide them a good government, that is effective, efficient, and credible. Okay, so let's not worry about politics. Instead, let's pray that the best leader will come out in this forthcoming election here in the country.
Thank you very much, Director General Charito Plaza and DDG Teo Paga. We have a question for Mr. Carlos Estrella, and followed by a question for Commercial Attaché Rosa Katrina Banson. For Mr. Carlos Estrella, there's a inquiry on the intention to set up plating line at the Carmel Ray Industrial Park to support customer. Would you like to give a comment on this?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so they have an inquiry there's an intention to set up a plating line at Carmel Ray Industrial Park to support customer. Do you have a comment on this?
Well, in Carmel Ray Industrial Park in Calamba, Laguna, we have an administrator where we can ask if these activities are allowed. So in our factory, we don't have this facility right now. We are engaged in precision machining of hard disk drive parts and SSD parts.
Thank you, Carlos. For Commercial Attaché Kat, there is a question from our viewers. Can we have a brief introduction with regard to the respective pros and cons of Pesa registration and of BOI registration for manufacturing sector? The comparative advantage of BOI and on Pesa in terms of the registration through the manufacturing sector.
I think that was answered by DDG Teo earlier, but he was saying that with the CREATE, it's same incentives will be provided by both PEZA and BOI. So I believe it was answered already.
In terms of the priorities for the itemization of the priorities for the Philippine investment, does the
Okay.
yeah.
So in the earlier session, they were mentioning about IPP, or the Investment Priorities Plan of the Philippines, which covered different sectors from manufacturing, energy, and the like. So we can share with the audience the IPP 2020. It's all the industries there, all the sectors there that are covered will enjoy incentives if they invest in PEZA or through BOI or other investment promotion agencies across the country. So as long as they meet the criteria, any company in the investment priorities list and other special laws, which are also listed there, will be able to enjoy incentives. The CREATE also specifies the Strategic Investment Priorities Plan. It's not yet out, so in the interim, we are using the Investment Priorities Plan 2020. Yeah, so manufacturing is part of it, and export manufacturing specifically is a big part of the priorities plan.
Thank you very much, Kat, a commercial attaché of DETI PTIC Kuala Lumpur. Again, we have a set of questions to our officials from PEZA, from Mr. William Saw, and also from Aimflex Group. First question is, for manufacturer planning to set up business in PEZA, is there a minimum requirement for export? What if the manufacturer's customers are principally located in PEZA zone? In other words, products are not for export. And then the second question follow up to that is, may I confirm minimum paid up capital for 100% foreign-owned company in PEZA? Is it USD, or what is it, 100,000 USD or 200,000 USD? DG Tayopanga.
Okay, thank you, Mr. So, for those two questions. Number one, there is a required minimum export requirement for all companies availing of incentives for export. That is 70%. So as you do 70% export, you're allowed also at the same time to sell 30% to the local market. So, but if you happen to be domestic market oriented, then it follows that you don't have to comply with any export requirements. So you can be 100% domestic market oriented as long as your proposed project or activity is listed in the investment priorities plan. As to the minimum investment, under the PESA regime, we don't actually require a minimum investment for export-oriented projects. So we will be awaiting the guidelines from the BOI on the SIPP. But this $200,000, just to confirm, this is a paid-up capital requirement for those companies that will be engaged in trading. Say, for example, we have a type of locator that we register in PESA called Ecozone Logistics Service Enterprise. So under the retail trade law, they must comply with the minimum $200,000. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another follow-up question this is from Dato Lee Tian Chai. Can foreign investor company buy land and factory in the Philippines if the company is 100% owned by foreigner? Yes, ma'am. And also a follow-up question from our media friends. What are the updates on the investment pledges approved by PEZA as of October 2021?
Okay. Can I answer the first question? Can 100% foreign investors buy land? The answer is no. But we allow the lease of by foreign companies to both public and private lands up to 75 years. Unless they have a local or a Filipino partner So the 60-40 rule will apply, meaning 60% of the joint or the partnership is owned by the Filipinos and 40% foreign. Then the partnership is allowed to buy or to acquire land. So either you lease for 75 years or have a local partner, and 60-40 rule will apply, so you can acquire lands. Factories, buildings, yes, you can acquire buildings and factories for 100% foreign-owned companies.
Thank you, DG Plaza. This one is from the polymer link. Specific industries were mentioned with attractive incentives. Would that mean industries not within the specified categories are not included because all industries are directly and indirectly complementary? Your thoughts on this, DG Plaza or DG Teo? In the speech earlier, specific industries were mentioned with attractive incentives. Would that mean that industries not within the specified categories are not included because all industries are directly and indirectly complementary?
Thank you. It's a bit difficult. I think it's more policy oriented than being legal. But you know, the very nature of guidelines, it's not strictly a law so that it becomes absolute. Anything not covered by it cannot be allowed. So we don't expect the SIPP to be crafted that way. At the very least, it should provide for a miscellaneous item so that anything that is not covered can be put up for discussion by the respective investment promotion agency. And this is why we have in our case, we have the Pesa board, so that anything that is worth registering and within the purview of the CREATE and Pesa law, the board may actually decide on considering an industry, whether it's specific or indirectly and complementary for registration with incentives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. From our media friends, what are the updates on the investment pledges approved by PEZA as of October 2021?
Okay. We never stopped our conduct of twice a month PESA board meeting where we approve applications, but our reporting is done quarterly. So the latest, of course, is the report of investment pledges and approved by the PESA board from January to June. We still have to come up with the third quarter report. So we'll definitely provide our media friends with that updates of investment pledges. But definitely, among the investment promotion agencies, PESA is recognized by the Philippine Statistics Authority to continuously increase investments, employment, number of projects, and even export income despite the pandemic, the threats and challenges of the pandemic. This is because of the aggressive conduct of marketing and promotion by PESA, such as what we are doing today, the Global Biz with PESA, because we refuse to be locked down or to be hostaged by the pandemic, no? Especially that in every crisis, it is not just the danger, but the opportunities that we have to take advantage of, specifically because humanity has to survive. Businesses and industries must survive to address the needs of humanity. So we here in PESA has to continuously be aggressive in taking advantage of this opportunity where investors of the world are looking into areas to invest, places to invest, no? And definitely we have a lot to offer here in the Philippines, especially in our economic zones.
Thank you very much, DG Plaza. We have a question to our panelists, and then later we call on Dan the Chica, the SEPI president. May we call on again the president of Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Hao Hanhui. In terms of priorities for the chamber, what industries are you looking at for expansion in the Philippines? And also, same question goes to Mr. Nicholas David, priorities in engaging other partners from Malaysia. Mr. Hans?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
In terms of priorities by industry or sector, what are the priorities of the being facilitated by the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce in terms of exploration in the Philippines? Are you looking at manufacturing or IT BPO or halal or Islamic finance? Are these some of the priorities also for the Malaysian Chamber?
We don't have any like specifically priority in the industry. Overall, we are like gated potential Malaysia's company who like to explore the Philippine market, because the Philippine market is a very potential, in terms of the market size, and also the PEZA is suitable for the import the raw material, reprocess and export to the neighborhood country. So I would say that we don't have any specific industry, but overall we have like constructions, IT companies, banking industry, and halal foods companies.
Thank you, Mr. Hans. Nicholas David would like to give a comment on that. DG Plaza made mention earlier about the expansion of Pesa Ecozones across the country. Is this also part of the priorities of MTD? Are you also looking into a parallel strategy of engaging other LGUs for your expansion?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. As for MTD, I forgot to mention earlier that we have another PEZA registered entity in Palayan, Nueva Ecija. This is the Palayan Business and Economic Hub. It's a IT BPO facility registered with PEZA. And we plan to continue doing this across all LGUs across the 13 regions of the Philippines. We call this project the Mini Putrajayas. It's a small government center with a business and economic hub promoting BPOs in these facilities. So MTD has been an inclusive partner of LGUs and private sector in expanding business across the regions of the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Nicholas David, the CEO of MTD. We acknowledge the President of CEPI, Mr. Danda Chica, and then followed by Ms. Marites Agoncillo of Conweb.
Hello, Alim. Thank you. Anyway, hopefully I'm not being redundant, but as I mentioned earlier, SAPI is the Semiconductor and Electronics Industries Association, representing an ecosystem of 350 manufacturers, suppliers, and universities in the Philippines. We account for over 60% of Philippine commodity exports and employ over 3 million direct and indirect workers. The industry accounts for about 10% of the country's GDP and 10.8% of the GVA. We supply 8% of the global demand for semiconductor integrated circuits and 2% of the world's requirements for EMS products. As exporters, most electronics companies are located in the Ecozones of the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, or PEZA, led by our tireless and diligent Director General Charito Plaza, and of course our DPGs, including DPG Teo and DPG Nori. PEZA has really served, as you heard earlier, as an efficient one-stop shop for foreign investors. And really, this is very critical, especially during the pandemic situation where we had to deal with the national government agencies for permits, travel restrictions, investments, expansions, and pioneering technologies. Of all the locators, the exporters in the Philippines, I think if you talk to them individually, there will be a unanimous comment or witness or testimony that PEZA really has been very instrumental in bringing in our export industry to the level where we're at. So we're happy working with PEZA, and we certainly endorse foreign direct investors, I should say, to check out PEZA and the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danda Chica, for the affirmation to the various activities spearheaded by the leadership of PEZA under DG Plaza. May we now acknowledge Ms. Celeste Ilagan from the Confederation of Wearable Exporters of the Philippines. Marites Agoncillo first.
Hi, good afternoon. For this opportunity, I think we didn't expect this. I'm Marites Agoncillo, the Confederation of Wearables Exporters of the Philippines Executive Director. We're basically in the exporter manufacturer of garments, leather goods, and footwear. And basically, the industry by itself is about 250,000 direct workers, and about 70-75% of these direct workers employed are actually working within the confines of PEZA zones. So that by itself, 80% of our export, I fall short in terms of number compared to my partner, Danda Chica, who is in a double-digit export performance level. We're only roughly around $1.4 billion worth of exports, but about 80% of this is also coming from the export processing zones under PEZA. That by itself, I must say, shows our confidence, the long time relationship, confidence, just resilience of PEZA, especially during the pandemic last year. The DG Plaza's team was really holding our hands day by day just to open the factories, just to operate. She was very, very innovative in crafting, interpreting the laws of the land so that we could all open up, especially during the height of the quarantine. So thank you very much, DG Plaza and DG Theo and the rest of the PEZA team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marites Agoncillo from the Confederation of Wearable Exporters of the Philippines. We now call on the representing the Business Process Association of the Philippines and the Philippine Association of the Multinational Companies Regional Headquarters Incorporated, Ms. Celeste Ilagan. Yeah, we can call you again. Probably after probably she had a hard time with the connectivity. So we now proceed to the final remarks. It's almost time per our watch, and we now proceed to the final remarks. We start first from the Commercial Attaché Rosa Catrina Banson, and then followed by the Director General of the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, Charito D. Plaza. Kat?
Hi. Yeah. So thank you again for this opportunity to speak with our PEZA locators or potential PEZA locators. So again, as mentioned earlier, we thank Malaysia for the great partnership, especially in terms of trade and investment between our countries. Malaysia is a top investment source for the Philippines. In fact, from between 2008 and between 2018 and 2020, just from 5 major investments from Malaysia alone, IPA-approved investments to the country amounted to $1.66 billion already. So that's a great feat for us. These are in sectors of manufacturing, agribusiness, and services. And as mentioned earlier by our panel and from the questions from our audience, there is great interest in renewable energy, IT BPM, and in other sectors. So for renewable energy, especially, there was a lot of interest in solar energy. And I was remiss, and there was also a lot of interest in the manufacturing for semiconductors. So PTIC is committed to service our investors and potential investors through business facilitation assistance, through B2B meeting arrangements, virtual tours for potential locators to your specific locations, or as specific actually as factories that you want to visit in the Philippines. Because because travel is difficult during the pandemic, we do virtual B2Bs and virtual site tours. So that's a service that our office can do. Also, we process and help you get your travel ban exemptions. If not from our office, we will refer you to the appropriate national government agency. But we can be your initial touch point for this one. And as mentioned by DG Plaza, quarantine now is reduced from the original 14 days. Now it's 5 nights or like 6 nights, 6 days for foreign nationals. So you just need to book 6 days in a hotel, and you will be able to go about your business after. This is from IATF Resolution 142. So that's a good update actually that just recently came out. And finally, as one DTI, we thank PEZA, and we are partners with PEZA and BOI in promoting investments to the Philippines. So let's all make it happen in the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Commercial Attaché Rosa Catherine de Banson, DTI PTIC Kuala Lumpur. Madam DG Plaza, for your final remarks.
Okay, thank you, His Excellency Charles Jose, His Excellency Muhammad, of our Malaysian ambassador to the Philippines, our partners in various industry associations, our locator Malaysian companies. We hope that you will increase your numbers and expand more your companies here in the Philippines. We are now fully implementing AO18 issued by the President. AO18, which mandates that we have to accelerate the growth in the countryside by creating more economic zones, so that we can attract investments in the countryside. We can create more jobs and livelihood for our people in the countryside, hoping to develop also the millions of hectares idle lands into different types of ecozones, so that we can attract all types of industries in the world. So we are addressing not just the creation of economic zones, we are also addressing the efficiency factors. So we have now that worldview of thinking global and acting local, which means that we aim to make the Philippines as a big contributor to the global supply chain, but we have to address the efficiency factors in the local arena, meaning we are now looking at credit facilities that will be made available to not just to Filipino businesses, but also to foreign potential foreign partners. Like MTD has been hosting or sponsoring mini Petrojayas. So the first one is in Palayan City in Nueva Ecija. No? MTD, we have a lot to show you, no? Because right now, because of AO18, many, if not all, our LGUs are now partnering with Pesa, so they want to host economic zones. And enjoy the same social progress, like the poverty and the crime incidents were reduced because the constituents of these LGUs with economic zones are providing them with jobs, the livelihood. No? So we hope to really make the countryside very, very attractive. So with that, we hope that all the agencies of government, hopefully the next administration, will consider the economic zones as the economic umbrella program where all the programs and projects of every government agency will be focused on. For example, we need to have more public works infrastructure that can be addressed by the DPWH. So the roads, the bridges, and other public works infrastructure must be focused to the economic zones. We hope to improve our utilities. So right now, the Philippines is the second highest in power rate in Asia. So PESA is addressing that by attracting also utility or power providers exclusive to the locators in our zones who will be enjoying quality power, meaning no brownouts, so it won't destroy the machineries of our investors, and the lowest power rate. No? To give you an example, our Cavite economic zone, our locators are only paying 5 pesos per kilowatt hour. But if industries or investors are outside our economic zone, they're paying 12 pesos per kilowatt hour. Same in our Mactan economic zone, the locators are provided with exclusive power and a low power rate of only 6 pesos per kilowatt hour. Other investors locating outside our economic zone are paying 17 or 14 pesos per kilowatt hour. So we are now also in the road of transforming our existing ecozones into townships. So we are now redesigning, remaster planning our ecozones to become model ecozones of the world. So it's not only township where the investors, the workers will work, live, learn, and play. It is also, these ecozones also under PESA are assured of safety and security. We are converting or transforming these ecozones to become green, healthy, sustainable, and smart ecozones. So we want to become the model ecozones of the world. So these are the major programs and projects that PESA is now undergoing or undertaking, like 1.5 years from now or 2 years from now, we will have a new home. So to start is the construction of our world-class business center along Rojas Boulevard. So we'll be inviting our locators to also locate in these office spaces that we will be providing. Also, we are into automation. No? So the whole PESA operations, processes, and systems will now be automated. So we will bid that big project, and all our ecozones will have CCTVs, so we can monitor and act immediately in times of disaster, calamities, emergencies, so that we can assure our investors and locators in our ecozones of safety and security. So many more projects that we are now catching up in the last 2 minutes of the Duterte administration. So hopefully this will not the interest, the enthusiasm of our investors to the Philippines, to invest in the Philippines, will continue as we aim to really build an economy that is production, manufacturing, digitalized, and export-oriented economy. We want also our economy to become self-reliant, self-sustaining, and resource-generating. We want to lower our being an import and consumption-oriented or dependent economy. So with these success stories of our economic zones, we really hope to make the Philippines as an investment haven of Asia. So with the trust and confidence given to us by our investors, our partner associations, we really aim high to make the Philippines a great country once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Director General Charito Ching Plaza. Again, to all our panelists, maraming salamat po, terima kasih. We again would like to thank our speakers for joining us today. His Excellency Charles Jose, Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia. His Excellency Norman bin Muhammad, Malaysian Ambassador to the Philippines. And of course, officials from Pesa, Brigadier General Charito Plaza, Mr. Tereso Panga, the President of the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Philippines, MTD Philippines, Angtech Precision Philippines, and of course, the DTI BDIC in Kuala Lumpur. Allow us also to thank our counterparts from the Embassy of the Philippines Embassy of Malaysia in the Philippines and Embassy of the Philippines in Malaysia, Attorney Johaira Wahab, Nuriha Ahmad, and the rest of our colleagues who are responsible for staging this forum. We look forward to hearing more of your questions, and you may reach us at info@peza.gov.ph. Muli po, maraming salamat and good day. Raisa?
Thank you very much, GM Alim, and of course to all our panelists. But don't go away. We still have some part of our program here. Again, thank you, DG Plaza, DG Teo, si Ekat, Mr. Hans, Mr. Nick, and Mr. Carlos. And to those who participated in the discussion, we hope that your concerns and questions have been answered. Indeed, it was a very engaging forum. And now that we have reached the end of our event, may we invite DDG Teo to give us the closing remarks. And stay after that, we'll have a photo session, please. Thank you, sir. Go ahead po.
Thank you. On behalf of the Director General and the entire PESA organization, we wish to thank all the resource persons. So everybody was acknowledged already, and of course all the participants in this PESA Global Biz with Malaysia. And we are most glad and thankful for the collaboration with both the Philippine and Malaysian ambassadors taking the lead in fostering greater bilateral relations between our two countries, particularly in the areas of trade and investments and through PESA's Ecozone development program. While Malaysia happens to be a competitor of the Philippines in FDI attraction in the Asean region, Malaysia continues to be an important source of trade and investment for the Philippines. DG Plaza and Commercial Attaché Banzon already reported on the Malaysian investments in the Philippines. But let me just highlight that currently in PESA, Malaysia ranks number 11. So obviously we want more Malaysian investments into the Philippines, and more so that among ASEAN, it's only the Philippines that has GSP Plus privileges to the EU market. And let me highlight also that there were actually two Malaysian big-ticket investors that came in during the time of President Duterte and under the able leadership of DG Plaza. So these were Hebat Builders. They're actually with MTD Alloy for its tourism project in Clark, worth 8 billion pesos. And Perstima for its manufacture of tin plate, 3.3 billion pesos. Both were registered with PESA in 2018. In addition, in our quest for digital transformation to cope with the new normal, another big-ticket investor, MYEG of Malaysia, through its JV with iPay Philippines, has recently rolled out the online payment system for PESA transaction fees. So meaning our locator companies will now enjoy various payment channels without having to come over just to physically pay the fees. So it can be through online transactions and other payment channels, which MYEG is also doing for BIR for its income tax payments. And surely, these payment gateway solutions will surely enhance ease of doing business for our Ecozone locators. As the Philippines is poised to recover in 2021 and with a projected stronger growth in 2022, We look forward to expanding our trade with Malaysia and to hosting more Malaysian investors in any of our 415 world-class and environment-friendly ecozones all over the country. Again, thank you all very much for your participation today. Terima kasih, kekal salamat, mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, DDG Teo, for the usual remarks with the wisdom. Before we end, may we invite His Excellencies Charles Jose and Norman bin Muhammad, if you are still here, to please open your camera for the photo session together with our participants online. Our technical team are queuing. Okay, we would like to request our team here physically to come closer a little bit for the photo op. Okay, so we count 1, 2, 3. One more. Okay, we have around, how many slides do we have? All right, again, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. And last one. All right, there you go. That concludes a Global Biz with Pesa featuring Malaysia. We wish to extend our sincerest appreciation and our best wishes for the good health and well-being of everyone who joined us today. On behalf of everyone in Pesa, we send our sincerest thank you, terima kasih. As we say in Pesa, together let us promote our butter cry. Okay, join our Director General. 1, 2, 3. Galing Pinas. Galing Pinas. Made in the Philippines is the best, and the Philippines is the best to invest in. One more time. Galing Pinas. Galing Pinas. Have a great... Made in the Philippines is the best, and the Philippines is the best